2000 Toyota Celica GTS. Finally, the crown prince of all front-wheel drive.
I came in like a Celica. I never felt so high. I don't like this song either.
The name Celica is from the Latin Coelica, which means heavenly or celestial. The last word that would reasonably match this car's description. It's not a bad car. But no one's opening up the pearly gates to find a Red Bull rally car, not unless the name is Ove Anderson. The Celica GT, which is one below this, was powered by the 1ZZ FE, which was rated at 140 horsepower at 6,400 RPM and 125 pound-feet of torque at 4,200 RPM. Both the cars got to have variable valve timing with an intelligence system, as opposed to every other front-wheel drive sport coupe that has variable valve timing. Now the GTS is the top tier Celica with a 180 horsepower 2ZZ GE engine that makes its peak horsepower at 7,600 RPM and it makes 133 foot-pounds of torque at 6,800 RPM. This is the ending of the generations, so it runs on the T230 platform with the front engine front-wheel drive layout. The Celica uses an engine similar to the one that powered the MR2 Spyder, which adds a certain poetry since this ended up dying the same year as the MR2. In July 2004, poor sales forced Toyota to announce that the Celica and the MR2 would be discontinued in North America at the end of the 2005 model year. Oh yeah, I forgot another car. The engine that's in the Celica GTS is not the Lotus Elise engine, so quit saying that. Yes, the block is the same, but there's a crucial difference. The Lotus Elise engine has a Yamaha-built aluminum hat that can handle the hard revs and the higher compression. If you ask the Celica GTS to bang like a Lotus, it'll nut too soon and call you mommy by accident. But hey, peak horsepower, 7,600 RPM. Most sport coupes these days peak at 6,400 or 6,500. The Celica GTS that we have right here uses the 1970s definition of used car. No, this isn't a pre-owned car. This is a used car. The back hatch is held up with an ice scraper. The hood scoop is purely lip service, like Skills for Adolescence class or my health insurance, or my LinkedIn account, or Act 48 credits. But here's a good thing. The Celica GTS drives like a car that wants to be rear-wheel drive again, because the Celica wants to be rear-wheel drive again. When you drive the Celica GTS, it doesn't fight hard cornering like a similarly proportioned GMJ body. Okay, this is gonna be tough. I'm going to make a case for Toyota's automatic gearbox. The automatic transmission tries. It tries hard. It tries earnestly. It tries for all the right reasons. Like Uncle Max trying to act heterosexual because it's Christmas and Grandma won't be around much longer. But like fat guys in long-distance relationships, it just doesn't work out in the long run. Real fart. The Celica's automatic transmission tries to shift with the steering wheel thumb and shoulder shift buttons, but like the Audi A4, its slush box truth comes out like a threadbare middle school lunch table lie. Anyway, back to economics and why the Celica isn't around anymore. I'm not entirely sure the Celica's death is necessarily the fault of the car itself so much as the economic forces surrounding it. The sports coupe market was taking a serious hit due to the 1997 Asian financial crisis. Real estate prices skyrocketed, stock prices inflated, asset prices accelerated, and well, we, Americans, got our own economic kick in the dick in the late 2000s. But for Japan, this economic catastrophe resulted in what ended up being known as the lost decade, or lost decades, plural, since some economists count the periods from 1991 to 2000 and 2001 to 2010, since the lingering effects are still felt today. When you drive a Celica GTS, you can feel the consumerism and excess of the 1980s still carried along. They cradled the economy in such a way that even today, nobody spends like the way they did in the 80s. People went through money like Paul Bunyan went through a forest, and it meant that while Toyota Toyota had dominated the automotive industry in Japan in the 80s, it suddenly found itself facing serious competition from rival manufacturers. That put Toyota on the defensive like it never had been before, or since. Tenured salary workers were replaced with temps who had little experience and even less job security. This is without even getting into the lack of benefits. And remember, Toyota assembles cars in the United States. They have a number of plants here. Whether the plant makes the Celica or not is beside the point. Nobody was looking to buy a car like the GTS because sport coupes were fossils from an earlier shameful era of hookers, blow, and the music of Frankie Goes to Hollywood. This was a car of douche chills and douche thrills for the guy who learned how to eat pussy from watching his dog lick spilled ramen noodles off the kitchen floor. It took the better part of 20 years, but the Japanese people eventually rediscovered their lost financial dignity in the low tide of regret. However, by then it was just too late for the Celica GTS, and cars like the Subaru XT6, the Mazda RX-7, or the Honda Prelude, and the MR2. These cars couldn't ride on their reputation anymore, and it affected the perception over here. In the year 2000, the Celica went from selling 52,406 units in North America to just 3,113 by 2003. Hardly anybody was buying these things because dads thought, well, if I need to get my daughter a car for college, I can just buy this Pontiac Sunfire for peanuts. And that's a shame because the GTS deserves credit for trying. If there's one thing I took away from it, this car tries. It tries like a miserable wife who stays with an equally miserable husband for their miserable kids. It tries, and that ought to be worth something. Especially now, in a culture that privileges low effort. I mean, look at this Celica. This is a top-tier Celica, and even in its battered state, it's good. It still wants to have fun. This is an old golden retriever that still hustles for a tennis ball. Maybe its youthful glow is gone, but that's because it's seen some things like you don't even know. Look at this. Even its badge is held together with wire like the grave marker on a deserted island. It's got a spider-webbed cracked windshield. It has a split-lip front bumper. It ends up looking like Tim Burton's Batmobile. The Celica GTS is your old high school crush who asks you, 10 years after the fact, why you never made a move on the band bus. And yet I have to proclaim the Celica GTS. I have to say it out loud and get the word out there. I feel like a scorned boyfriend getting the truth out to as many mutual friends as possible. She was a good girl, and she deserves better. If not me, then somebody else. Be my friend, GTS. You have your faults, but damn do you have character.
This GTS is quite a beast. Its engine's not like the Elise, but I don't mind a front-wheel drive, no lie. And in a pinch, we're good with the Celica. It's like an accurate replica, and it's too cold outside for people to drive. People to drive.